Hello. Hello, everybody in the stream. We're trying something different today. We're going to try and do it over YouTube and Twitter. So if you're on Twitter, it does help to come over to the YouTube. It does help me out as I can promote more on the YouTube. And you can come over, drop a like if you haven't already, and we'll see where we get to. Tons of likes today. See if it does better or worse for the stream. Having it on TikTok as well. Not TikTok, Twitter. It says we've got like over 100 people watching on Twitter. So if you're on Twitter, thanks for joining as well. If you wanted to come over and join on YouTube, there's obviously the chat that I can interact with. So on YouTube, I can bring up messages like this from Zachary Gubargas. Connor, what's up, bro? Fighting wars on the timeline about Samu for 35 million. It's a superb deal, of which I agree. 35 million, in my opinion, is a good deal for Samu. And if this is also on Twitter, like I'm saying it is, I can almost guarantee that a lot of people in here disagree with that. But we will be speaking about that today. Samu makes no sense. We've got Jackson Gu and that Academy 16-year-old. You're on about Shim. So Osimhen makes more sense. I'd prefer Osimhen, but it doesn't mean that Samu's not a great buy, and especially at the value that we're getting him at, it's brilliant. Hello, AR. Can a few more of you just type in the chat just to see if this is working, because it's coming up with some sort of error message on my page, so I just need to make sure that all the comments are coming through. So just type anything in the chat just so I can check to make sure they're coming through. Elias, that's come through, says hello. Hello, Elias. Or Elias, it's working. You're good. Cool. That's 35 million in euros. Hard to be mad at it for that price. I'm pretty sure it actually is coming to 35 million in pounds now from what they're saying. But I do think it's going to be a great price. And Sam Huggins has said he's going to be a phenom. You never know. So what we'll do, we'll answer some questions. We'll talk about him a little bit because this is a little bit of an Omorodion special. Let me know in the chat if we get any news that comes out on Twitter, any actual go-aheads, because the news currently is about Alvarez, the bid being increased. Am I right? The wage bill bid being increased, and therefore that can pretty much set the domino into effect, because obviously if you've been living under a rock and you haven't seen all of these that collide, we've got Gallagher to Atletico Madrid, Alvarez from Man City to Atletico Madrid, and Omorodion from Atletico to Chelsea. All three deals setting off the domino effect. Have I ever used playback? Yes, I do have a playback. If you go over to my Twitter, there you should be able to find the link there. If not, I will maybe link it in at the end. But yeah, I have used that a bit as well. Would like to see Nkunku at left wing. I'd like to see him at left wing against Real Madrid as well. Just to see that dynamic. Still think the best role for him is in here. But again, I think that because of how versatile he is, we're more likely to see him all over the place to accommodate. Because especially right now, it's okay. But when the likes of Palmer start coming back in, it becomes a bit more of an issue where to put him. Alvarez needs to agree terms. Yeah, 2 to 3 mil difference. Yeah, I saw that. But let's see where that goes, because there's no saying that he won't still accept lower terms than PSG, because it's a more favourable move for him if he prefers that move. Obviously, there's been talk about him wanting to go to a warmer climate. A lot of Argentinian teammates that he's spoken to and that are at Atletico Madrid, so that plays into it. So we'll see. Where else are we? Looks amazing at the hold-up play and winning the first ball. Strong, tall, fast. Haven't seen anything that impressed me about box occupation finishing, though. But he allows us to do route one, which is nice. We'll talk about him in a minute, but his box occupation, if anything, for me, is like his biggest strength. And again, I will go through. And yes, this is being live streamed on Twitter and YouTube. I'm trying it for the first time. I want to see how it goes, because I've seen a lot of people doing it. I'm assuming that means it maximizes how we can grow as a community. So let's give it a go, see if it does well. I mean, it says we've got 334 viewers overall, so I don't know how many of them are Twitter and how many of them are YouTube. But I mean, if everybody comes over from Twitter, comes over to the YouTube page, drops a like, drops a subscribe, that'd just be brilliant. You can get involved in the chat. Maresca said Enzo won't be playing in the 8 in future. Yeah, see, we've seen this, and Zach's also put about Enzo in the DLP, like the deep line playmaker spot tonight as well. It turns out it was more so to do with the way the journalist asked the question, basically saying that Enzo was dropping into these right mid spots and about him playing as a right midfielder, and he said no to that. So it's still very likely we see him in the attacking midfield areas as like one of the advanced number eights, either right or left. But I do really want to see him deeper. I think Caicedo's better in Enzo's role here. I want to see, again, it's like nothing to do with Lavia, but I do want to see that dynamic. Again, that can be either side, but I want to see Enzo deeper, Caicedo box to box. But again, Lavia's been probably our best player this preseason. So, is this lineup what you expect game week 1? No, this is just, I've sort of just put this together. Playback Twitter. I don't think you can do playback and YouTube at the same time. I might have to check, see if you can. But again, my Twitter community is probably the biggest of all my platforms. Well, I say probably, it definitely is the biggest of all my platforms. So it probably allows us to get more views, more interaction. Like I say, just help grow the community in general. But I'll have a look into it. Like I say, I do have a playback and I do use it. So if the plan to also go for Osimhen would how much? If the plan is also to go for Osimhen, I'm assuming you mean, would how much time do you think Samu and Jackson will get? So it doesn't look like Osimhen's going to happen as well. But if it had have been, just imagine this extra dot here is Osimhen. I think Jackson would have been seen as an option for the left wing and an option for the striker. How much time he would have got, I'm not sure. But I think in this current situation, Jackson actually is going to be the starting striker. And because Omorodion's coming in on quite a decent fee, where it's not going to require him to start every game, it will mean that he doesn't have to start. And then some games, again, he offers you that different type of football, that box occupation that we spoke about. So he can come in later in games. So even if he gets the last 20 minutes in a game, and then he can also start cup games, Conference League games. For his first season at 20 years old, whilst Jackson's a few years ahead in development, I think that's a good way to share their minutes. And I'd be very happy with just those two. And then you've also got Nkunku who can bounce positions. And then if you really want to keep Gu, he's your third striker too, like Gui. So yeah, what will happen with Lukaku is hard to tell, isn't it? I think it's seeming like they want the straight sale, they don't want to loan him, but then obviously for that to happen, Osimhen needs to be offloaded somewhere by Napoli. So who knows? Maybe PSG, seeing as if Alvarez makes that move, maybe PSG dip back in for Osimhen because they know Alvarez isn't a possibility anymore. They just go all in, try and make that deal work. Then Osimhen, PSG, Lukaku, Napoli, vice versa. I'm not sure. The one thing I really hope doesn't happen is Osimhen to Arsenal. That scares me. That does scare me. Right. For this stream, I wanted to talk about Omorodion. So I am going to quickly just come off the screen where I can see all the chats. So I will catch back up with them. I'm going to leave that as it is there so that I know where to pick up from. And I'm going to quickly read you through my keynotes from my Omorodion player profile. So he scored 9 goals, got 1 assist in 2,109 minutes for Alaves. Is important. I'll give you the context for this quickly before I go back into the notes that I had. Alaves have the least amount of possession in La Liga with 40.7%, which is the least amount in La Liga. They make 5.3 accurate crosses per 90. So this is important when I give you the aerial stats for Omorodion. So 5.3 per 90. They scored 17 goals from open play, but that includes 5 attacking goals. So in total, if you add the 5 counter-attacking goals with the 17 goals that they class as from open play, not from a counter-attack, again, this is on who scored, that's 22 goals from that. Heavily transitional side. Again, you can tell that from their possession, but he did thrive in that and it did make him look better in transition, and it is one of his strengths. And they scored 8 goals from set pieces. And even if he's not the one getting on the end of them, he is always a threat. There's a particular goal where he actually heads it on from a corner towards the back post where he gets a touch. So it's actually an assist. That'd be his 1 assist. That's a good reference point for that. So with that context, he wins 2.75 aerials per 90. 5.05 penalty area touches per 90, which is actually really good in the counter-attacking teams. That's an important one to keep because that should almost definitely skyrocket even higher into like 7-8, into the 7-8s in a stronger possession side where that ball is getting fizzed into him more and he has more responsibility to do that, which is a good sign because that's a high-end box occupant striker. 3.02 shots per 90 with 1.17 of them on target. Fairly decent rate. Again, quite similar to a lot of those elite strikers at that end of the spectrum. The bad one, of course, that I highlighted yesterday, 4.1 missed controls per 90. He does have a heavy touch, often coming when he takes the touches back into these areas. He can often still retain possession because of his, again, that ability and that physical build that he has to protect the ball. But it, of course, a heavy touch back into this area does slow play down. It does, and it does allow the opposition players to get back into position. So it's important to note, yes, he does have a heavy touch. And the 4.1 missed controls from that. 0.52 XG created per 90. Again, that's very good. He's a high XG creator in that sense. Again, they're created for himself. It's not like he's creating that XG for others, but it's just his, again, being in and around the box. It's just the threat that he provides. So he has a minus 0.11 goals minus XG, and he scores at a 0.13 goals per shot ratio. So those are the main stats that I had on him. I'll quickly come back to the chat. Then we will come back and I will go back over a few of the other notes that are like less stats based. Hi, I love your shows. Keep going, my friend. Thank you, Sue. What type of striker is Samu, and is he a different profile compared to Jackson? Absolutely. So when you've got Jackson, you've got pretty much the way I described this yesterday is you've got Jackson, who's your more complete overall striker. He is basically in there as like your Gyökeres type. He's complete. He runs the channels. Of course, Gyökeres scores a much higher clip. He's much more composed. He's also a bit older than Jackson, so he's got that extra bit of composure in and around the box. But Jackson does bring quite a complete nature to his game. Very good at carrying the ball. Again, he can do that in deep areas or out wide when he runs the channels. Very good little tight space manipulation in these sort of areas here and around the box. He can link up play. And he can still score goals at a high clip. He just needs to obviously improve that composure slightly in and around the box. And I think that will come next year. I think that he'll have a better season in that sense. Whereas Omorodion, he's more your box, like I say, box dominator is what you'd basically call him. He's doing most of his business in and around here. He'll come out to link play with one or two touch, and then you're trying to get him in the box where you can put these crosses into him. And even if he's not the one getting on the end of them, it's important the gravity that he pulls with him and the amount of coverage that he requires to defend him is the important things to sort of note with Omorodion. Where can we watch a game tonight? I believe it's on quite a few American streaming services and things. So again, you just have to sort of look it up. I think ESPN's one of them. What's the latest on the Gallagher move to Atletico? It's pretty much done as long as Alvarez goes through. So it's all dependent on Alvarez. The Gallagher side of that deal is supposedly done. So it's now just waiting on the Alvarez part, which will then allow Omorodion, and Gallagher to go through too. What is Osimhen better at that warrants the larger financial outlay? Because of how similar Samu and Osimhen, because we are getting him for 35 million, I struggle to see why Osimhen is still the better deal. I don't think it's necessarily like the better deal in terms of money, like value and like outlay, like you say. But Osimhen is essentially for double the price, but it's more than just double the price. Like you're doubling the price in terms of the value that you're spending up front, but then also the wages are going to be way more than double, the agent fee, etc. So it's the package is more than just double; it's probably triple in total. But what you're getting is pretty much Omorodion without the risk, because again he's got the injury risk, which is different. He's got the injury risk Osimhen has, but he's pretty much a ready-made Omorodion. He's ready to play now. He'd be the focal point now, again because of his because of how defenders already view him. Even without playing a game, he already strikes that fear into defenders. So before he's even kicked a ball, defenders are going to be giving him that gravity and they're going to be giving him that respect that he deserves. Whereas Omorodion will have to earn it. It will come quite quickly because the second defenders see him, they will realise the physical monster that he is and the respect that deserves and requires to take care of him. But I think it's just that Osimhen he's more of a crowd pleaser. He's a ready now version. And again, I wanted Osimhen because again, it's the most likely to quickly fix things. But I do think Omorodion at the value is a great deal, and it pretty much gives you all of the assets that you want from Osimhen as well, just with a slight worse level of finish. And I say slight because Osimhen one of his things is he's actually not the most clinical. He's a high shot volume player, gets into the areas again, creates a massive amount of XG, but he's not the most clinical. His efficiency could get better, and as could Omorodion's. Total Sport Tech, yeah, that's a streaming site. ESPN's the main one, yeah. Do you think Gu is more similar to Samu or Jackson? Do you think Kunku can be an F wing due to having a box striker? I think more similar. He's pretty much in between, but I think he's more similar to Jackson in terms of running the channels, being able to drop in a bit deeper. He's 6'2", and he still has a little. He's more aerially sort of got that more aerial prowess compared to Jackson. So like that would put him between the two, but I think he's closer to Jackson of the two. And then you said Nkunku to be a left wing due to having a box striker. Yeah, I think he could. Whether it's optimal, I still think his best position is probably here, but I think he'll be one of the ones that has to sort of make way for other people. And opinion on Enzo as a 6, do you think he would freedom to be near zone 14 to create for all of our attackers? I think maybe not zone 14, but I have sort of said, like, imagine, like, let's just put this as Enzo. Let's put that as Casado, just so that I can sort of talk about him. When Enzo pushes up into here, like, off when we're sort of pressuring, he's sort of the one that would be playing the ball through these gaps and, again, out wide, or, again, he can clip in a ball into the box from here. So he's close enough to the box where he can make things happen, and he can still stray, especially if you've got, like, everybody's pushed up with him. And you've got this guy here as well, so whoever that may be, he's still got a little bit of freedom to do that from the 6. So I do still think that would be his best role. But yeah. Afternoon, Ryan. How do we fit Nkunku, Palmer, Casado, Samu / Jackson into one team? Good question. Let me quickly read out my last few notes that I have from Samu, and then I can just take loads of questions to end the stream, because we'll like to go through the stream. We'll make it more of a Q&A stream for the rest of it, with Samu still being the main topic, but let me just move those back so I don't forget. But yeah, I'll quickly read through these notes, then we'll go back to that chat, because that is a good question, and it's a tough question. So as I said, he's 6'4", has that aerial presence. He's a physical specimen, powerful strides, very quick, very nimble for his height at 6'4", moves his feet very well in sort of tight spaces. He's a lower touch striker, high physical and box involvement though. So again, much like Haaland, like I said earlier, he'll sort of drop in. He doesn't want to have too many touches in and around here, and then he wants to do his business in and around the box. That is his zone. If we used to say the Omorodion zone, it would very much be this zone. He's also a good carrier, uses his body well to protect the ball, power again to stride forward so he can sort of roll his man. This is very reminiscent. People aren't going to want to hear this, but Lukaku back in the day, in terms of when, if you remember the, what do you call it, the Carragher video, where where Lukaku sort of said about once he has his man like this and he can spin him and he can get away and then he can carry that ball. That's sort of when he's in his element. And again, that's where his carrying prowess comes from. He can sort of spin his man, get away. Again, those heavy touches can sometimes slow that down. But again, I think that's something he'll improve on. He missed 19 big chances and he did underperform his XG. So yes, as I said, he's a bit of a raw finisher. But the fact that he creates 0.52 XG in around these areas per game just shows that he gets in those areas. And that's the extra sort of, the next step now is to put away at a higher rate. And I think he's a sort of player that if he starts to match his XG, then you've got an elite goal scorer, at least at that level of box occupancy as well. Very instinctive movement in the box. One of his best and signature traits, so get ready for it if he does join, is he loves to make the run near post. So he'll often, his runs in terms of his movement to sort of drag a defender away and then burst at that near post. Again, I'll try and show you some examples in a minute, some pictures I've got. But that's one of his biggest traits. I think those near post runs and that sort of instinctive movement in the box, very good. Transitional monster, eats up ground, speed times strength equals power. Again, on the break, if you've got space behind that defense and you're going to go direct. So again, something that we've sort of seen a little bit, or mostly, is that sort of shape from deep build up. That of course leaves 1, 2, 3. That's a horrible circle. as like direct threats, and we've seen that these balls pumping forward from Sanchez, looking for those long balls when we are getting man-to-man pressed, and having a player like this in the middle gives you exactly what you want in that sense. Spin his man, get away 1v1, like I said, transitional monster. Penalty box striker with physical attributes, and he's got that upscalable technical ability to work with between the boxes too. Like I said, he's nimble for a 6'4" player, so it's not even beyond the realms to suggest that he can improve with that technical side of his game. Obviously, he's got quite a slow turning radius due to his height and his stature, because he's not just tall, he is also big, stocky. So that does come with it. But again, he uses his body well, so it's not as big as an issue. Great at escaping his marker, using his body. Again, he can sort of use his body to bump and back into players, so he can roll his man, protection of the ball, things like this. So that's pretty much the main notes that we have from Omorodion. Let's now try and fit Nkunku, Palmer, Casado, Samu Jackson. So we've got Nkunku here already. Okay. We've got Nkunku, we got Casado. So realistically, the most realistic of these is this, right? This is what I would say. I think the most realistic way of doing this is Nkunku off the left, the striker, so like you said, Omorodion or Jackson, and then you got Casado here, Palmer here. I think that's the best way to do it, in terms of also getting a touchline winger in Madueke on the right. Let me know what you think in the chat, what you'd change, but bear in mind you're getting those 4 players in this team. So the criteria for what I just did was, let me circle them. Criteria for what I just did was Nkunku must play, Palmer must play, Casado must play, and then striker must be one of Omorodion or Stern. So you can't just put Nkunku up front, because that wouldn't work in this. Yeah, we've spoke about this. I want to see him as a 6. I also think we're probably going to see him more as an 8 this season. We've pretty much seen that he's probably going to play more as an 8. I still want to see him as a 6. So I'm just talking hypothetically. That's superb. I love that 11 too. Obviously, this could be Brees or Gusto. But yeah. And then obviously Fafana or whoever's playing well at the time. Cole will become central. Kukurea. There's obviously options. Where was I? Creative player who can pass, who can play passes to unlock defenses. Multiple wingers who can consistently do 1v1s. Back to goal striker, channel runner. Tuchel's was a little bit different, because obviously his wing backs would be 1v1 a lot of the time. They'd sort of create 2v1s, if anything, with that sort of outside 10. But yeah, I get what you mean, obviously, in terms of there were certain factors that Tuchel would have wanted that we're going for now, in terms of like that penalty box striker, which again he did get with Lukaku. It just didn't work out because of the controversy. Samu will be our Havertz Haaland profile, 9 profile. The ability to beat the press and go direct and lay off the ball into the 8. Clear Maresca thinks we lack it too. He completes the squad makeup, in my opinion. Like I said, all summer, that's the type of striker we needed badly. And now, whether it's Osimhen, whether it's Omorodion, whether it was Sesko, that was the striker I wanted, that type. So that's what makes me happy. Would you prefer Samu over someone like John Duran? It's tough, because I think John Duran's going to explode as well. But I think with the few like sort of attitude issues that we have seen come through, I would say Omorodion now. But I have done a lot of work on John Duran this summer as well, and he's another player that I do think whenever he moves, I think he's going to explode. I think he's waiting for a move now. I think that next move is going to be huge. Where was we? Can we play Casado at left back and get him to invert? I'd love that. I would love that, but I don't think it's going to happen. I also don't think you need Lavia and Casado with it, like, and Enzo. I don't think you need all 3. I think any 2 at one time. Again, it can rotate heavily, because all 3 of them can pretty much like fit into a system one way or another together. But I don't think you need all 3 at the same time, unless maybe you're playing against a Man City like we did the other day, and you're going to play a little bit more controlled in that sense. But even then, do you think Nkunku is good enough at 1v1s overall as a touch? As a touchline winger, I'm assuming you mean. I think he's got the technical proficiency to do it. Do I think he's direct enough? Probably not, because he's not as like bursty with his like sprints and his pace. Like, he doesn't use it in that way. He's more technical. But again, if this was Dewsbury Hall with Nkunku out on the left, I think it works better, because that way you get Nkunku who can drift inside, and then KDH can sort of make that run as such. and he can then provide that left-footed cross. So that would work better in terms of dynamics to have him here, KDH. But I do think he can do that role. Could Lavia play where Casado is? As an 8, I think I said all preseason I think he could, because he's very good receiving with his back to goal, like sort of make like with his back to play even, and just sort of on the half turn where he can get away from his man. His sort of carrying is probably the best of all the 3 midfielders, I'd say. Him, Casado, and Lavia. Him, Casado, and Enzo. He's better in the 6, but I think he can definitely do the 8 role. I'm not sure what no interest towards. Don't you think Nkunku or Palmer aren't suited to the 8 role due to how much ground they'll need to cover? Not really, no. I think as long as it's not both, I don't think you can play both of them there as effectively. But I think one of them definitely. I think Nkunku, because again, the main role of the more attacking 8, the more defensive 8 does have to get back, but the more attacking 8, he joins the press here. So once he's done that part of his job, and again, sometimes he's cutting off one side of the pitch and locking off. I spoke about that in a video. If you haven't watched that, go check that out. That was yesterday's video where I spoke about that in a bit more depth. And then again, when the ball sort of breaks in here, the idea being that this man presses in and then that man presses back towards the ball. But again, it's shorter bursts, but it's intense bursts. And I think that's just a Maresca style. And I think both players can do that. And Kunku's done that really well in preseason. He's actually worked really hard off the ball. Yeah, like I say, it's not his best position off the wing, but it's not to say that he can't do it, is basically what I'm saying. Thanks, Connor, for the stream. Sorry to go. Got to go. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much, Joe Wright. And thank you for joining the stream as always. What winger do you think we get? I don't know. I really don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get one now, just because, like, the Omorodion signing, of course, you can put Nkunku out there. You can put Jackson out there. I really don't know. But we have obviously been linked with 2 signings. So, or like 2 attacking signings. So if Omorodion is 1, you would assume that maybe we get another winger too. I'm thinking it's just going to come from like an opportunity later in the window where something becomes available that we didn't think was available the whole window, like Oscar Bob-esque, but probably not Bob because he's been really good. And City have supposedly obviously nearly due to lose Alvarez, which maybe gives Bob a little bit more security on his minutes. Thoughts on KDH and Kunku rotating on the left? Yeah, I think you must have said that before I spoke about it. I like that idea. It's why Palmer as an 8 is perfect, makes the whole system tick. Yeah, and again, one thing that people don't really seem to be talking about with Palmer is when I keep talking about this sort of receiving zone for the 8s. Again, so if one pushes up, one drops in, and it sort of makes this 3-3-4. Palmer in this role, picking passes, that's cash money. Palmer's been doing that for time. He's got the creation for it. Again, he can sort of thread these passes, little clever ones, into somebody like marauding from midfield. He has it in him to play that long switch. Like he can play that little. Again, he can connect with Madueke, and he can create this 2v1 tension out here, and they can sort of rotate. There's so many options with Palmer in that right 8, with Madueke especially as that right wing, because we did start to see that last season. So that would be my ideal right side, having these 2 together. Chelsea have probably top 2 squad depth in the whole league. I expect when these players mature and we compete for real, we'd repeatedly get multiple. I would say we're still behind City and Arsenal, purely because the age of our squad still needs to develop too. Whereas the age with theirs is pretty much getting there already. But yeah, I'd say we probably have the 3rd deepest squad. Quite easily have the 3rd deepest squad, in my opinion. 3rd best squad, in my opinion, as well. It just comes down to using it properly and sort of everything clicking at once, because it is a lot to click. For the KDH and Kunku rotation you were just talking about, yeah, so you mean with Palmer as the 8, and that's what I was just meaning, like with these 2. Definitely. Nobody will be able to do load management like us. Yeah, that's true. With the depth we've got. We've got a load of chats going through, by the way. We've got 700 people in here. A lot of them probably on Twitter. But I'm just going to quickly refresh on YouTube, because whoever hasn't liked already, it really does help out if you like. We've got 68 people watching over on YouTube. Please do drop a like. And if you aren't watching on YouTube, it really does help if you come over to YouTube, drop a like there, because that does help me out a lot more than you watching on Twitter. And if you haven't followed me on Twitter, but you are watching on Twitter, then please do follow, because I'm aiming for 10k on Twitter, and I'm on about 9.2 now. I only just hit 9k the other day, and I'm already at 9.2k-ish. So hopefully we can push on by the end of pre-season, try and hit those goals. Ready for the new campaign. Keep your questions coming. We'll keep going for probably about another half hour, because we can go for half an hour. I think I've covered pretty much everything I wanted to on Omorodion, read out the stats and things that I wanted to talk about. Was there something else I wanted to ask? No, I think that's it. You're starting 11 for the majority of matches. Striker Jackson, right wing Palmer, left wing Sterling, 2/8 and Kunku and Enzo, Lavia Casado 6. Oh, slash Casado. Okay, I was going to say, doesn't add up, but yeah, that makes sense. Gusto, just Cuckoo to inverted Cole, Fafana, James at the back. I don't mind it at all. I like it. The only bit I don't like really is Palmer on the right. I don't really want him as a width holder, so I prefer that to be. Again, I think still, and the thing is there's going to be so much rotation. So as much as I think Nkunku probably plays a lot off the left, I think Sterling's going to be massive this year too. If he stays, which obviously is looking completely likely now, like there's like a 99% chance that he stays now, and I think Maresca likes him, and I think he's been good in preseason, despite he's one that I usually have a few gripes with, slowing down attacks, especially last season when it was more important to go fast. Despite what I wanted to see, that was the style of play, and he didn't work in it. But I think he could work a bit better in this one, and as much as I'd like to see Mudryk break through and take that role, because I do just like the traits that Mudryk has, Sterling's far more ready now to do it. What do you think of our incomes this window as a whole? If Omorodion comes in, that's the perfect striker profile, not name, because it would have been Osimhen as the perfect name, but perfect striker profile that I wanted. Dewsbury Hall, very good floor raiser, and a few very like Esteval, unbelievable, Mech, unbelievable. So those two just like really, really bring that window up. Vega, I rate highly. My only thing with the window would probably be that I would have preferred like someone like Calafiori. If we'd have brought in Calafiori, and it's not that I don't rate Vega. I rate Vega very highly. I've spoken about him. I did like a little what do you call it? Little like thoughts piece on Twitter about him. I have watched a fair bit of him for Portugal under 19s, I believe it was. That I was watching when I was scouting him. He's good, but Calafiori would have made that window a lot better. But I don't think it's bad. I think we've gone for the right profiles. And we've gone for height too, which is important to add a little bit to the team, a little bit of physicality with that new set piece coach, Cueva. Do you think Maresca tinkers anything against Vinny and Rodrigo? To be honest, I want to continue to iron out our main system. I think he will, because in the last few games he has said that out of possession he sort of made a few little tweaks. Again, on the tactics board more than on the training ground, he sort of inferred that a lot of what they're doing when they're changing things up in games is more to do with their on paper, and they're describing it on paper rather than having like days and days to repeat and repetitively train it. Do I think we'll see something different? It's hard to tell because we don't know what we're really going to see tonight. Because with Endrick in that lineup, it's really hard to tell. Because obviously last year we were seeing Vinny, Rodrigo, Bellingham. Endrick is that 9. Will we see Rodrigo hold a bit more right-sided width? Which means that we don't have to sort of overload one side of the pitch. Wouldn't be surprised if we see one of the 8s having to sort of cover over here with the right centre back in the man-to-man press, with a bit of left side dominance, a little bit of left side. What do you call it? Dominance isn't the word. It's a word I'm looking for, but having to sort of double up on that side of the pitch. So that could be a tweak. But again, I'll break all that down. I will break all that down so that we can all see it. Again, I'll have some tweets out tonight, have a video out tomorrow. If we can get it, so Jane sometimes gets freedom to drift down the right flank when Palmer goes into the half space. Oh, you're talking about if he was right wing. Yeah, again, because we saw Gusto doing it from the left side the other day, there's nothing to say that we can't see it from the right, which is why I think he tried it. Because I think, like, he only tried, he's not going to play Dewsbury Hall on the left, but he did that so that he could see Dewsbury Hall coming inside, Gusto attacking the left side, right? So I think he's basically attempting to see, or like he wanted to see the dynamics of if a fullback pushes on, so say Gusto or Reese, Palmer comes inside, like you just said. So it's probably something we might see at some point, at least experimented with. Ideally, want a touchline winger as an outlet. We saw second half as City when Sterling Madueke came on. Yeah, exactly. How do you make that work? How do you mean? How do you make that work? They are the outlets. They're pretty much the height in the system. Even when the striker drops in, like these are the pinning players. They're high up and they are the outlet, even to go long. So you're right. It's better when they are the outlet, and they are. So the best way to do that is when inverting the fullback, not having a fullback providing width. Imagine we get Osimhen. Not likely. Has anything come out, by the way? I need to catch up with all of this, but with all the chats. But has anybody seen? Has anything happened since I've been streaming in the last half hour in terms of the Alvarez news? I noticed we play so many first time passes between defenders and midfielders that will undoubtedly lead to errors. It will on bad surfaces, like it did the other day, or poor surfaces, according to them. So you have to give them the benefit of the doubt because even Pep said it. But the idea of that obviously is to quickly move players out of position and to try and trigger the press. Like what you're doing is you're waiting for that. If they're moving side to side, then it's not allowing you the gap, but you're trying to at least figure out where their pressing trigger is, and then the second it goes into there and they do step up, that's when you can play. So the whole point of moving it quickly is to sort of find those gaps and open them up. And it does work. It's worked really well. Gusto's been amazing at it, by the way. He's been amazing at playing those like sort of first time, really quick passes and then readjusting his position to then receive. So he'll sort of dump one off to the centre back, drop off, and then he can receive at a new angle. He's been very good at doing that. I think the most exciting thing is Maresca said he hasn't implemented everything he wants to. Yeah, and that's true. I have a feeling we could see something way more fluid against Inter. It'll be interesting. That Inter game, the analysis for that Inter game is going to be the most telling. So that will be the one that I'm really excited to do, like a proper deep dive of, because I think it's going to have a lot more to go into. And it will be a week away from the games. So that's when we start to discuss who's going to start, who's going to play against City, how we're going to set up against them. And very exciting with the season coming up. We shouldn't panic by an average winger. I'd rather see us go for Kvara, Rodrigo next summer. Very unlikely with either of those, but the left wing is the one that you want to like. Nico Williams for me is the guy if we could have got him, but even if we can go for him next summer, I'd still do it. Because yeah, we got Esteban Paez and those, and then obviously got Palmer. In the future, I still think Madueke is going to do really well this season too. So see how Mudryk does this season with Sterling. Eventually, you're going to look to move Sterling on, even if it is next year or the year after. Because I think he's got 2 years left on his deal. This year and then no, is it this year and then 2 more? Yeah, it must be. Is it a 5-year deal, wasn't it? Left wing's the one that you can, so you have a little bit of room. Of course, you've just signed Gabriel Mech though too, but that's a good few years off. He's 16. Do you think Reece is a right centre back and Casado left back works better? If he's inverting into the middle, I would like to see it, but we haven't seen it yet, so I'm trying not to theorise it too much, but I would like to see it. And does it mean we're too short and easy to bully? Reece isn't easy to bully, so no. No. Because as well, Casado's really good in the air for his height too. It does mean, obviously, because you've lost a little bit of height at fullbacks, that's like where having a bigger striker comes into play. But again, like even like on Madueke, and I was thinking about this, like Palmer, for example, like these are like they're not small players and they are fairly filled out for their height. So they do add a little bit of physicality, not in the way, not to the degree that you need it, but yeah. Haven't seen Palmer play left wing at Chelsea, but for England under 21 and City was quality there. Yeah, and this is another option. I don't again because he's so quickly risen to the top. Like the cream's risen to the top with him. He is now the man at Chelsea. I don't think he's going to be one that gets displaced if he wants to play as the 8 or the right winger. That's where he's like that. I know Maresca is going to be in control, but he's going to be one of the ones that just I don't think he gets moved around for fun. But yeah, it's another option. Like I sort of said that too. Like especially when Esteban Paez comes in, if you want all 3 of them to play together, somebody has to be shoved out on the left. Esteban's going to play as that right winger, that touchline winger. So one of Paez and Palmer is going to have to play left wing if you want all 3 of them in the team. Unless you're going to play Paez and Palmer as 8s if Maresca's still at the club, which I still hope and I think he will be. I think he'll be here for a while, but fingers crossed. But yeah, there's things to do in that sense. There's squad building. I think I just cut out there. Let me know if I'm back let me know in the chat. Did that just cut out for a few of you? As in my face cam. Please do a PL prediction stream video. You're one of the most knowledgeable people. You're one of the most knowledgeable people I've stumbled across on the internet. I really appreciate that, Atok. And I do plan on doing a PL prediction stream video. That is probably the sort of content. I might even do a stream for it, like you say, so we can get all your guys' predictions as well. And then we can come back at the end of the season. We can check everybody's predictions, and that'd be really fun. That's a fun idea. I might do that. I'm going to put that on. I'm going to write that down after this. So that's a good thing. I would like to do that. But thank you for the compliment as well. The window is good if you're happy finishing 10th or 8th. No, I don't agree with that. But, like, yeah. The squad is so much better than people give it credit for. Omorodion's a special case. Absolute monster of a player for his age. 6'4", 90 kg at 20. That's a defender's nightmare. Exactly. Naruto, exactly. Sorry, not striker question. I believe we got set piece coach from Brentford. Yeah, Bernardo Cueva. Have you seen any improvement? First few, in terms of deliveries and like mixing it up a bit, like a few short corners to put in swingers. Yes, we've seen a bit of variance in that sense, but I also don't think we've had all of our set piece takers on the pitch at once. Like Palmer's probably going to be one of those options. Reese is clearly one of those options. KDH from the left is one of those options. Madueke has been taking a few, and as well, like having everybody on the pitch that you want to be on the pitch. Like again, having a bigger striker is going to give you different pieces to work with. But yeah, I think it's been slightly better, and I think it's going to get much better as the season goes on, and you can sort of put those into practice. There's no point bringing out set piece routines to a huge extent in pre-season because you want to use them and bank them for the season. Because the thing is with set piece routines, it's not like it's not the same as your pure sort of playing routines. Like set piece routines can be figured out quite quickly. And then you have to sort of come up with different strategies. It's almost like play calling. Can't wait to see Kukra brought into the squad. Again, he's such an exciting one that there's so many options. He could play as the left centre back. He could invert and have that aggression in the middle of the park. I think Maresca's going to love his aggression. I think that's going to be one of the main things. Of course, he has to control it, but I think he's going to love that counter pressing aggression that he's going to bring. No updates yet. As you can tell, by the way, I'm like 5 minutes behind on the chat because it is just absolute. Oh, Fab, hang on, Fab exclusive. Gallagher and Samu are going ahead. Sorry if I've missed over a few. But I need to get to this now. Gallagher Samu almost done. New Fab tweet. We're sealing Con and Samu deals. For if Alvarez agrees terms. So how does that change anything, Ben? Is that even changed then? Because obviously, I'll check the tweet. I'll check the tweet in a sec. Rodrigo's the ideal attacker to add for me. Yeah, it's not going to happen. But of course, he's brilliant. I'd love him, but no chance. How do you think we could set up line up against Madrid? Is there something you want to see? I don't know how we could. If I could, like, what would I want to see? I think Jackson's more likely to come off the bench, so let's start Gu. I want to see the same wing part. No, actually, I need to see Nkunku off the left. So Sterling, you've been brilliant this preseason, but I want to see Nkunku off the left. I want to see. Again, this isn't what we're gonna see, but this is what I'd like to see. That maybe. Get to see a bit of everything. Lavi's been superb. Again, bring him on in the second half. Maybe take Casado. Maybe give Casado 45 again. Move Enzo forward and put Lavia in the 6 in the second half. But if there was things I really want to see, this and this, they're the two things I really want to see. And like resting Reese and just starting Gusto from right back, just makes sense for getting ready for the season. So yeah, those two would probably be the main things. Wait, here we go. Is it then? Is it done? Samu confirmed. Gallagher, here we go. Preferred to close the deals now while they wait for hours to agree. Deal done. 43 million for Gallagher. Cool. And is the fee? So if that's 43 million, is that euros for Samu? Done. Brilliant. Perfect. What a perfect time to be streaming too. During all the here we goes. Wow. Need for Varane to get match fit. Yeah, agreed. For that right centre back role, he'll be huge. So I'm just going to quickly refresh my Twitter. So I can't see currently the let's circle Omorodion so people know that if they join, this could be. That's what we're talking about. Let me just check this tweet. Oh wait, so Connor, here we go. But no Samu, here we go. Yeah. Am I right? Am I missing something? Have I missed anything there? Yeah, no Samu, here we go. Yeah. Leighton, did you get my? No, I don't think I did. On what? On Twitter? I don't think so. Tell you what we're gonna do as well. This is gonna have to be through Paint, so it's gonna look a bit dodgy. But I'm going to just show you a few bits of Omorodion that I want to show. So let's see if this works. Share screen. So you can sort of see this, right? Oh, too much. Right, mainly what I just want to talk about is that this movement across the box that we were talking about. So as you can see here, Omorodion, he sort of makes that move towards towards the box. But he's obviously, you've got these two players, they're split, right? But as you can see from this next image, so the one below it, I think is the next one, he actually starts to make that move inside. So as you can see here, he's more pointing that way. Then he sort of makes that move inside, but he's still pointing to that spot where he wants it. Okay. So again, clever movement. This, as you can see, this defender's sort of saying that he's going to make that run in between the centre backs. So again, he's watching that part of the ball, this centre back here, and you've got that space before he then makes this darting run across, which I love this goal from Omorodion, I really do. This run across, and again, look at just how the defenders end up like 15 and 3. The way he perplexes them in that sense with that movement, just very clever in-out movement, attacks the near post, which is, for me, his best movements are sort of in and out and then towards the near post. And again, he's just got that sort of deft touch in and around, finishes that. He scored 3 or 4 goals like that this season. So I just want to highlight it. I'm going to sort of annotate these in my video. So look out for that. I'll have a proper Omorodion video uploaded on the channel as well as this stream. But yeah, I did just want to show that because I think that movement particularly is what makes him really good in and around the box. And again, it's important enough to have that box occupancy in terms of his physicality, but to also have the movement too, and the ability to sort of create those chances via your movement. And then you have around him, you have the creators such as Palmer, and you have people like Madueke putting balls into the box. If you have Mudryk out on the wing, or you have Enzo like with that long ball over the top, there's a lot of options. Thoughts on Gallagher leaving? I feel he's the type of player that is always useful for your team, so it's sad regardless of the system we have now. I'm sad because he is Chelsea and he cares about the club, and I love the academy players that come through and care about the club, and I think they mean something to the club. I think they give the club meaning. He would have been a bench player for me, but he would have been a great bench player. So of course, in that sense, he would have been useful, and I would have loved to have had him coming off the bench late in games to come into one of these 8 roles for 20, 30 minutes and do a job. And then of course he could come off the bench. Not come off the bench, he could start cup games too. So yeah, of course it would have been brilliant. But so it is sad to see him go. But yeah, there is other midfielders for me ahead of him. What do I think Maresca's ceiling as a coach is if backed fully? Genuinely, it is like at this position, like when you're a positional coach and you have those sort of, and he's also just got that because you've got the tactics which are right up there. You've got the, I'm gonna say it, aura, but like some managers do have it, some don't. We don't know fully to an extent of Maresca, but it seems that a lot of players are buying in quite quickly. That's a good sign. Seems very hands-on on the training ground. The main thing now with Maresca to see if he can really make it at that top echelon, if he's backed fully, like you say, is how he manages sort of big egos when things turn a bit, bad patches, things like that, and see if he starts throwing players under the bus or if he takes responsibility for himself. I need to see a bit more in that sense as the season goes on. Everything I've seen so far, and again, I said this before we even signed him, before he came from Leicester, I think he's got that very high ceiling, put it that way. Do I think Carney needs a loan? No, but I do think he needs more minutes, especially in like Conference League, Cup games. And again, I think he's a great option off the bench in one of these 8 roles. I really do still think. What I am surprised about is that how little we've seen him in pre-season since. And yeah, Zach said it about you don't keep bench players that are worth 40 million, especially at pure profit. So that makes sense in terms of, if pure profit wasn't a thing, then you'd probably sell on a different midfielder to make that sort of money. But pure profit does exist, and as Maresca said yesterday, you can't hide from that fact. So yeah, I don't really think Carney needs a loan. I just think he just needs minutes. And like I say, I'm surprised he's not had more in pre-season because I do think he's perfect for the 8. Maresca gets his stubborn label, which makes no sense. I'll get this stubborn label. He's never managed the same team for multiple seasons. Your first season as manager is for establishing a baseline. Flexibility comes later on. And he also was more flexible than people give him credit for. He had a base structure. He liked to invert a fullback. And he had a base structure of a 3-2-5. But he still had aspects. Like I say, KDH and Mavididi, very fluid last season. Sometimes he'd have the striker dropping into here. Other games, if it equipped for it, he'd have the striker playing higher up and not really dropping in so they could pin the defense. He did, and even pressing structures they changed game to game too. They were man to man, but they changed how you approached it. Whether you have a left side dominance or a right side dominance, whether you're locking off one side of the pitch or the other, whether you're not locking off any side of the pitch. There's a lot of flexibility to his system. It's just the overall framework is the same. Rank Mech, George, and Rio based on potential. That's so tough. That's so tough. I don't think I can do that because I have George really high, but I just don't think I think he might not get the chances afforded to him that he needs to reach it. And it would be very easy for me now that he's left to just say Rio third, but I also just don't know. I won't answer in terms of ranking, but I will say this. The reason I wasn't as annoyed about Rio leaving was because I knew we had George, and I personally rated him higher at the time just because he was nearer, and I'd watch a little bit more of him because of that. And I like the sort of the long legs dynamic of George. It's a bit different for a winger. So I like that sort of like his dribbling mechanics in that sense, and I think he can be a top player. Mech is probably the best of the 3, though. He, for me, is like just below Esteval. I don't know if he's a whole tier below Esteval, but he's just below Esteval, and he's that good. So yeah, Quiz Pursuit has put Mech, Rio, George. Do you think we need a centre back or a current option or worth backing? A current? Oh, do you mean is there a current centre back option worth backing? I think Colwell and Fofana. Fofana, you need to just play him back into form. Badia, Shield, and Tossin, I think they can. But I don't think you need a centre back. I don't think you need one. Again, I'd love if a DM. I'd just wait and maybe go for Diamande next year. At this point, got a dip. Top stream, bro. Looking forward to your thoughts on the game tonight. Thank you, Zach. Take care, and yes, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit on Twitter later about the game. When I'm posting all my thoughts, like you said. What do you think about the future of Santos at the club? We'll have some combination of Enzo, Casado, Lavia, KDH, Palmer, and Kunku Pires fighting for those midfield spots. That's not even including Carney. Santos's future is very much in the midst of becoming one of these pivot players, which he's very good at, or being sold for profit. Unfortunately, that's the reality of it, isn't it? Really, because he's brilliant. He's brilliant, Santos. He really is. But if you have, like you say, if you have instantly just without the names after that, Enzo, Casado, Lavia, 3 players that are ahead of him, and 3 players that should be ahead of him deeper on the pitch where Santos's best position is. So it's tough. Where did I learn tactics and scouting? So I played football, obviously growing up. Then started coaching when I was 16. Went to uni, did sports science and coaching. Then did my dissertation, in performance analysis. So that's basically like the tactics and like that's sort of bit of tactics, bit of learning to code games, learning to sort of watch particular players and particular elements of players. So did pretty much all my dissertation things to do with that. Scouting as well then came after that, and then I've worked with a few clubs since I left uni to sort of refine it to a deeper level. And then yeah, I've sort of gone into the writing industry now and the content creation industry and sort of just trying to merge everything together. But where did I learn it all is pretty much just a whole host of everything. Academies growing up, like training, then coaching, then uni, then club scouting, and like working within a club, like with a club or with a few. And then write and turn it into writing. So it's pretty much the whole journey of it, and it is just adding little bits to your CV as you go, and also just being willing to learn. Like you've just got to sort of get into it and just really knuckle in, because you'll pick things up. Just be a sponge. I know that's a very what's the word? Can't think of the word. You know what I mean? Badiashile and Tosin haven't impressed me. That is why I'm thinking of a centre back. Maybe he'll be back. And Domino is not going to be instant, but long term, yeah. Badiashile, I think he starts the season. He's made a few mistakes, but I do think Maresca quite likes him as that central centre back. So it's going to be interesting. I think he's done enough to start that first game against Man City, especially with like the in and out nature of like Cole or Fofana. So we'll see with that. We sell Santos for 80 mil in 3 years. I mean, maybe not 80 mil, but good chance he gets sold and definitely at a profit. Would I rather sell Carney than Santos? No. Only because I think Carney's a slightly, I don't know. Santos probably has a higher ceiling, but Carney offers something that we don't have as much of, which is that sort of ball carrying eight and that profile to sort of progressively carry the ball. So no, I think I'd rather sell Santos, which is tough because they're both class. I think people are critical of Disasi, and for me personally, the defence should be Cole, Tosin, Disasi. I will say this: I said this the other day on stream. Disasi is the one that I'm holding out for, making me sort of changing my opinion of how he can fit in this system, because I don't think it's an optimal system for him. But one, I loved how the leadership that he brought last season and also in pre-season with the whole Enzo scenario. I love that. I love that aspect about him. I said it all last season too. Cliche is the right word, by the way. I've just seen it, but yeah, that is what I was looking for. The word earlier. I like his aggression again to win the ball. I don't think channel defending is his thing. So, like you've said here, Disasi is a wild card for the central centre back. Probably where I'd prefer him. Like I say, he brings that leadership in a season where we've just lost Silva, but also Gallagher, who was the captain a lot last season. So Disasi is one of those ones where I'm waiting to be proven wrong, and I think there's a good chance that he does play a fair amount this season. Like I say, purely down to that sort of. I do love the leadership side of him. Where else are we? Still waiting for Cole to put a decent performance in. No, I still think he's class, but he's not been like to the absolute highest degree, but I still think he's been good. Tyreek George seems great for our system. High GA and good dribbler. Yeah, I hope he gets the pathway too. He's class. Angelo Noni, not for me. Not for me. Angelo's a very good wide playmaker, but I just don't think he adds that same directness that you need and that same sort of, especially in this system. I just think Madueke is just perfect, and he has the defensive discipline as well. So I do just think he's perfect. Do you think Sterling can be both left wing and right wing options? Yes, I do, which means Palmer could play in the 8, and do you think Angelo could be a touchline winger for us? Sterling, yes, I think he can play both sides. Can Angelo be a touchline winger? He's more of a playmaking winger, but he can do it where he holds the touchline and does it from there. So yes, but I think he's more likely to go on loan. And yes, that means Palmer can play as the 8, but it also means if Palmer's playing as the 8, he's also technically an option for the wide right position. So you can sort of do both. Hey Connor, this is David Anderson. Hey Connor, going to watch from the start. Just wanted to add that it feels like they are only going for Samu because he's a genetic freak. I'm worried about game time for Q. Yeah, if it does happen, don't be surprised if he does go on loan. And I do think you're right in terms of like genetic freak sort of comparison or like the wording, but that is something that we've sort of been doing, and I think it's the correct thing to do when you're looking at that zone or like of the pitch. If you're not going to get Osimhen, because that's what you're looking for from that player. You're looking for somebody who requires attention. That is essentially like the gravity is something that I keep using as the term. But you want somebody that can occupy 2 defenders at once that don't want to leave him, and therefore it offers up space for these attacking players who can then sort of steam in, collect the ball in and around here. And it's just all about, like I say, that gravity that they acquire. And I think the more of a monster you are in that sense, like you say, a genetic freak, a physical freak specimen, the the more sort of respect that the opposition have to give you. And like I say, even if these balls are coming into the box and Omorodion's not getting them, even if just because he's attacking them and it's causing 2, 3 players to go with him just to try and stop him, that's when you start getting 10 goals a season for your 8s that are just dropping, where the ball's just dropping to them. Or your 8, or especially if it's in Kunku out wide, attacking the back post. Like, there's so many options for goals. And I think it's going to help spread goals out just by having that type of striker. Dewey could really do it alone, ideally in a possession-based team. Yeah, I agree. Dewey has to start versus Madrid. Yeah, I think he will start tonight because Jackson, I don't think, is ready to start. And he's a La Masia grad, so he'd love to get that goal, wouldn't he? But yeah, I think he'll start, and I think Jackson probably comes on for half an hour. So you probably get 60 minutes of Dew and 30 minutes of Jackson, is what I would assume. We're going to go for like maybe 5-10 more minutes. So get your last questions in and I'll try to answer them. But we have nearly hit 1,000 viewers over pretty much all the platforms that we're currently streaming on. So I am going to quickly do a plug for everything. If we could come over to YouTube if you're on Twitter and drop a like on my video, because that really does help me out. We are currently on 43 likes, but 64 people watching on YouTube, which means we've got nearly 900 people watching on Twitter. So if any of you can come over from Twitter, the link for my YouTube is in the bio. It would really help out if you come over, drop a like. Even if you just come over, drop a like, and then leave and rewatch on Twitter. But it does really help me out. Again, you can interact in the chat when you come over to YouTube. Subscribe because I upload daily videos pretty much. I'm trying to make it daily. It's only just becoming daily, but we're trying to get to that point now. Daily videos or streams. But yeah, like I say, it does really help out. And if you're not following me on Twitter already, then please do, because we're aiming for that 10K mark. We are currently about 800 away. About 800 away. So yeah, please do come over, drop a like. All right, we'll get into the last few questions before we end the stream. Alvarez, here we go. Really? Wait, Alvarez, here we go before Samu? How strange. How weird is that? Oh, so there's 20, so it's 75 million euros fixed fee with 20 millions of it being add-ons for Alvarez. Wonder why Samu's the one. It does basically confirm it, but I wonder why he's the one that's coming last out of that. What's Piers' profile? Is he long-term option that Dewsbury Hall role? I think he's more of a he's a bit of a Palmer really for me. He's a left-footed creator. He's can be slightly more defensive, so yeah, like not defensive, but he's got that sort of bit of bite about him. Tenacious, I'd say. So yeah, I see him as one of the 8s, definitely. Ideally in here, so we can cut in on his left foot and use that sort of creation of his as well, like with that outswinger, in-swinging cross and getting shots on target. So yeah, I'd like to see him in that role, but that's how I sort of would put him. How do you rate Jorgensen? Is he a PL winning title? Winning, no idea. Opinion on the gatekeeper, I've not seen enough of him, so I'm not going to give an opinion on that. But with Jorgensen, and a few people just said, like, do I rate Jorgensen? So we'll just speak about him quickly. I do rate his playing out from the back. I think his short circuit passing is really good, which is going to suit him in the system where he's playing in a short circuit, like these shorter passes. I think he slightly needs to improve. He's got the ability to play these passes, but the efficiency of them has to slightly increase. I think he's got the confidence to do it, and I think Maresca's going to like that. Shot stopping, I think he has a lot of potential with the frame he has and his reflexes. His main issue being very Edouard Mendy-esque, that he parries a lot out in front of goal. Again, he's sort of a stop-first keeper, not really as sort of needs to be teached into him to worry more about that. Where's it going to go once you save it? But he got a lot of potential. I still think Sanchez starts the season as keeper, and maybe we get Jorgensen slowly work his way in. But yeah, you like how I explain Maresca's tactics? If you haven't already, there's a whole video before Maresca even joined, or like I think it was just as he was confirmed, or just before he was confirmed, of my Maresca tactics video. It's my best ever video on YouTube. It's got like 40K views. Go watch that if you haven't already, because I think that explains everything really well. But yeah, I've pretty much been uploading what we've learned from every friendly game. So again, if you've got time to kill tonight before the game, head over to those videos. There's one from the City game, one from the Celtic game, one from the Club America game, one for the Wrexham game, and it little tactical tweaks in each one. And I think if you watch all of them, you start to realise what's very common and what's maybe more tweakable. I'd say that. Well, I don't know. Do you think Lavia can invert from right back? Of the few, no. If of those like three, it would be Casado that can do that. Not to say that he's not good enough to do that, but no, if you're gonna do it, it's Casado for me to do that role. City made a mad profit on Alvarez. Yeah, they did. They did. They were always going to though if they sold him because they did get him on a good deal. What about 4-2-3-1? Cucurella, Cole, Fofana, James, then Lavia and Casado, Sterling and Kunku, Palmer, then pick a striker. That's right. So my issue with this is Palmer is the right winger. So because in this scenario, you've got Cucurella starting left back. You've got Fofana will be right centre back, Cole left centre back. Well, no, I'm assuming you mean it like this with Cucurella inverted. I guess it would be. With Lavia, then you'd have Casado and Kunku, Sterling. So it'd basically be this in possession. My main issue with that is I don't like the dynamic of that. I'd much prefer. It's not that I don't like Casado in this role. It's more so that I don't like the dynamic of Casado as an 8 and Palmer as a touchline winger. Like if you're gonna play Palmer as a touchline winger, this needs to be somebody that can come and play in that role too and overlap. So that would have to be like Carney, and even then, it's not ideal. Like I say, for me, it's just far better. And this is not to say this is how it'd be, but it's just far better to have it like this. Just get a little bit more on this side of the pitch, and then you got Sterling who can sort of just hug that area of the pitch. Again, like this isn't how I'm not saying this is how it'd be because obviously you need it. Like Nkunku's one of the players that you want in the team. But yeah, the point more so being that if you're going to do it how you just described it, that would be my main issue with it. What would be our perfect lineup going into the season? I think I spoke about it a little bit earlier, so I'm not going to like really. It's really hard to tell. First game of the season, though, I do think we see like Gusto, Lavia, something like that at the back. I wouldn't be surprised if Palmer doesn't start the season. So maybe we see that could be Casado or Enzo. Maybe Casado just because it's a harder game, like defensively, and then Sterling out on the left. Maybe we see something like that. Too many players to fit in. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I get you. I do get you. Like I say, having Nkunku, Palmer, Casado, Lavia, Enzo, they're just straight away. That's 5 players that you want in the team. But again, all bet essentially, or like whether it's deeper, advanced. It's tough. Do you think Vega can be a starting left back long term? Long term, like really, like after a few seasons, I think he has that potential to be a starting left back who then becomes either that or the inverter. But yeah, long term. But then that would be obviously more like that. But we need to see more of him. He's actually looked good in the few games we've seen. About Ugochukwu keeping him this season, I think yeah. I think I would keep him based on what we've done so far this window and the fact Gallagher's gone and Santos been loaned out. So yeah, I would keep him around because I think he could, like you sort of said, he can deputise in a few roles. And I actually think as well he's been quite good in the few games that he's played this pre-season. So we'll say that. On that note, we've been going for an hour and 10. It's now 7. Well, it's gone 7. I need to go and eat, and then I need to start doing some prep work for the Chelsea game tonight. I also then have some other analysis work to do. Pretty sure it's about West Ham. It's not Chelsea based. And then at midnight, obviously, we'll be watching Chelsea. So I've got so much to do still before midnight. And then, yeah, keep an eye on my Twitter. Do follow me if you haven't already. Like I said, I'm going to have half-time thoughts out at half-time. Then I'll have full-time thoughts out. I'll probably have a post before the game to sort of analyse. Not even analyse, but just to sort of predict what we're going to see on paper when we see the lineup and just to sort of give you my thoughts on the lineup. We'll go over all of those things. And then, like I say, we'll speak about the game, half-time thoughts, full-time thoughts, a few posts after the game maybe. And then tomorrow we'll be back on YouTube. It'll be a video, though, not a stream tomorrow, I'd assume, where I will do things we learned from Chelsea versus Real Madrid. So that's pretty much where we are. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Shazeb. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Like I say, we're nearly at a K overall. joining the streams. That is absolutely brilliant. I think we are going to do this from now on, where I stream on both YouTube and Twitter. Like I said, if you haven't already, go drop a like on the video on YouTube and come over and subscribe on YouTube, because that does really help me out, and that allows me to do more of these streams, longer streams, get guests on, everything. So the more support, the more we can do with this. So thanks very much. Thanks, Steve, and thanks, Money Mikes. And I'll catch you guys next time.